Hi, everybody. My name is Kiril, and I'm happy to see you on this meetup. And I would like to introduce you the topic of my presentation. That's a personal planning in the daily life of a business analyst. But in reality, I want to describe you my methods that help me not to turn gray in a year, even in 4 years of working as a BA from multitasking. And the only thing that helped me not to do so was a personal planning in that I invaded into my life. And the proof of this quote you can easily see on my hair. They are still brown. Those who haven't already turned gray from the stress of uncertainty and multitasking, put pluses, please. I want to know you how many of us is there. This workshop will be divided into 3 parts. The first part will include the presentation and my speech about personal planning and prioritization. Then you will have time to argue with me or ask any questions about this meetup. And after that, we will have a practical part where I will ask you to help me with the creating and concrete plan for our 10-year goal in retrospect of different periods. For that, you will only need to write down the answers in this chat. The last important note, I've also made a more extended presentation with more example, which you can get by writing down to our organizers or me. Me, sorry for this tongue twister. Okay, luckily I made this mistake at the beginning of this meetup, and now don't care about all these other failures of my speech. And I suggest you to write me down on Instagram or in LinkedIn for this presentation only after this meetup. And the first from what I want to start with are 3 main questions that I usually ask for myself for each presentation. The first is, who am I? Now, the answer is easy. I'm a running IT man. Why? Because I love running and I work in IT. What relates to IT, I'm a senior business analyst in Andersen company, have an experience of working as a product owner. I teach students in IT school, mentor interns, conduct and update my own online courses of business analysis. I used to be a resource manager of 14 analysts, established and supported the training program in BA department, and more and more and more. But my main change was made at the age of 19 when I gave up smoking and started running. Mostly, this change allowed me to have this slide and have my minute of fame by reciting the list of achievements for the last 3 years. I don't want to tell you about all my work experience and achievements, even though my inner narcissist tells me continue and never stop. If you wish, you can find all the detailed information about me on this slide or in my social networks. Follow them if you are interested, but please after this meetup. The second question is, why am I here? From the first perspective, the answer is that I want to transfer the knowledge and experience in personal planning so that any of you can reduce the stress level caused by multitasking and improve the quality of life by inventing these techniques. From the second perspective, I want to feed my ego, develop my soft skills and social networks, try some jokes, and be in a position of a wise expert for 1 hour at least. The third question is about you. Why are you here? My assumption was that you are here so as to get the tips how to work smarter, burn out less, control your life more, do less and get more money, of course, let's be frank, and get some practical skills in personal planning so as to use them in future. And of course, I consider that you are here so as to reduce the stress level, communicate with people, and of course, have some fun. Due to this assumption, my presentation hopefully will be useful, practical, and fun. Because we are business analysts, we like to write down some flows so as to show the successful scenario of different actions. And here is my successful scenario that represent what gives you personal planning at work or at home. It looks so. Managing your personal tasks better makes you less nervous. If you're less nervous, you work better as a rule. Working better, you do tasks faster. Doing tasks faster, you have more free time to develop new skills. Developing new skills, you become a better professional. Becoming a better professional, you get more money, interesting tasks, and respect. If you highlight your professionalism, of course, for your managers. If this motivation is not enough to start invading personal planning into your life, I would like to show you a simple comparison of the person with and without personal planning. Without personal planning, you have high uncertainty in tasks, high stress level, constant switching between tasks, failure to see the overall picture, you have performance decrease. But with personal planning, you understand better the tasks that have to be performed. You have a lower stress level. You focus on the most important tasks and understand the overall picture, and of course, increase your performance. So, I've been talking some abstract things for 5 minutes, and it's time to proceed to the agenda and then to the more concrete information. So, at this meetup, I will start with the techniques that can trace your long term goals for 10 years with the daily tasks you have to do within a day. After that, I will show how we can invade Kanban board for year, months, week, day into our life and use it as a very powerful tool. The last theoretical part will be about prioritization techniques that I use on the projects and in a daily life. Finally, I will make some conclusion, tell you about my mistakes and life hacks. After all this bunch of information, you will have an ability to argue with me or ask some questions. Both options will be cool for me. Finally, we will go together to the practical part of this meetup. At this part, we will set a plan for reaching 10-year goal with the help of the techniques that will be described beforehand. That's why at this part of the presentation, I will need from you some help. I will be asking you to write down your ideas and then add some of them to our plan. And let's go together to this theoretical part. It includes personal planning. By saying personal planning, I mean planning not only professional activities, but all spheres of life: work, family, hobbies, sports, and so on. Because this is a business analysis meetup, I will make a bias towards planning in the life of a business analyst. But it doesn't mean that if you are not a business analyst, it won't be useful for you. All the actions of personal planning I divided into 9 steps. Set the mission of your life, then set the goal that you want to achieve. Divide them into spheres of life. Set the goals to 10 years, then decompose these goals into smaller goals for 5, 3, and 1 year. Then set the list of goals for 12 weeks. Plan the goals for 12 weeks. Set the plan for a week, then set the plan for a day, and do it again, and again. So let's dive deeper into each step. And the first step is set your mission. I consider that it's the most complicated question, but and also the most useful. I won't stop on it for a long time, so then I will only tell you about the questions that I asked myself to find an answer for this point. What is my life mission? What do I live for? And of course, the most efficient task to create my own epitaph. In other words, epitaph is a 3-4 sentences text about what I would like to be said about me at the end of my life. The task looks moody and dark, but in reality, it helps to define what are the most important aspects in your life. After that, it's easier to go to the next step. And the next step is to set the list of all the goals that you want to achieve in your real life. When I say all, I mean all. Turn off your inner critic and pessimist. You will give him time to have a party a little bit later. Here is necessary to write down everything that comes into your mind, even if something looks unrealistic. Don't prioritize and structure it with smart criteria. Just write. And write at least 50 goals. When you feel that you have written everything you wanted, stop, make a pause, and return to this list on the next day. I assure you that some new ideas will emerge. For such activity, I suggest to write it down in a Trello board, or you can do it in Excel sheet. But in my opinion, Trello is more creative tool and gives you this space for freedom. Once you feel like you really don't have any more ideas and you've reached at least 50 goals, you can move on the next step. On the next step, it's necessary to divide all your tasks into different spheres of life. There are some overall spheres of life that you can easily find on any website. But be accurate, because not all of them can be relevant for you. That's why I suggest to combine overall spheres with the spheres that are relevant for you. In my life, I have the next spheres: self development, business, work and finance, family and relationships, sport and health, hobbies, public affairs, and creativity. For this specific list, it's not necessary to duplicate the goals to different spheres if you consider that it's relevant for all of them. Add it to the most appropriate one. After finishing this step, you will clearly understand what spheres are you focusing on the most right now. In an ideal world, the numbers must be equal, but in reality, of course, it can't be so. Of course, you can also divide the goals into different spheres in Trello board. It's up to you what to use. Despite the fact that business analysts should always set the only one source of truth for their documentation and goals, here I make an exclusion and double it from Kanban board to XLS or vice versa. After finishing this step, we move to the next step. We set the goals for 10 years for each sphere of life. At this stage, you need to analyze your list of all goals and choose those that you want to achieve within the next 10 years. Of course, we need to understand that the goals for 10 years should be more specific, but should give you some freedom for reaching them. And please, don't try to stuff all your life goals into 10-year goals. It's cool to add some figures for your goals so as to trace the success towards reaching them. But remember that not all your goals should have the numbers, specifically what relates to the family and relationships here. Because, as for me, the goal to have a big and happy family is better than the goal to have at least one wife with at least 3 children 5 years after I entered the marriage market. Of course, that's just a joke, but hopefully you got my idea. When you finish the list of goals for 10 years, it's useful to look through that and define whether that's enough or a lot. And don't remember that these goals should motivate and make you working better. If everything is okay with this step, it's time to proceed to the next stage. The next stage is set the goals for 5 years. These goals should emerge from the goals for 10 years. The difference is that you should make them more precise than 10-year goals. Set some concrete figures so as to make them measurable. In overall, I usually look more at 5-year goals than a 10-year, because 10-year retrospect is necessary mostly for the overall vision due to your mission, but 5-year is a more precise period. Of course, 5 years is also not a short period for such hectic and changing world. That's why the goals should be specific but not very strict, so as you can always change the way how you are going to reach them. Due to the fact that 5 year is a long term and 1 year, in my opinion, can be too short term, there is a layer between them. It's the list of goals for 3 years. This usually is the finish line of my long term planning. 3 year is more than enough so as to set the strategy and define the tactics of reaching the long term goals. The technique of setting them should be the same as for 5-year goals. The only difference is that you set them from 5-year goals, make more precise, and define them as your main long-term goals. At this stage, it's necessary to make them smart. For those who doesn't know what means smart, this is the list of criteria for the goals. Your goals in ideal world should be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bounded. Please put pluses those who have already known about these smart criteria. At this stage, it's cool to remember that the more precise your goals are, the easier it is to set the specific plan toward achieving them. By this slide, I finish the part of long-term planning and move to the short-term planning. My short-term planning starts with the goals for 1 year, but in reality, it's interesting for me to know, even more interesting than about SMART goals. Do you consider that in current world, 1 year is a short-term planning or that's a long-term planning? Put pluses if you consider it a short-term and minus if you consider it a long-term. And hopefully I will see the answers on my another laptop about what you think about 1 year goal. So as not to make a big pause for that, I will continue while you're writing your answer. When we are talking about setting goals for the year, we are talking about SMART goals. You should make them as specific and as time bounded as they can be. Because if you set not precise enough goals, you will not understand how to achieve them and what to do. The same rule is applied to our functional and business requirements. Business analysts surely understand what I'm talking about. When you set the goals for a year, you need to create them from 3-year goals. But always remember that not all the goals for 3 years should be decomposed to 1 year goal for the nearest year. For instance, there is a goal to become a teacher in business analysis for 3 years, but there is no actions for that goal in retrospect of 1 year. Remember that 1 year goal should force you to perform better and make more efforts than usually, but not overload you. Because in that case, you will just burn out and won't achieve them. Or even if you achieve, you won't have any resources to move forward. I burned out, and that's why I know what I'm talking about. And I won't ask you to put pluses those who have also burned out so as not to recall those feelings for everybody. I also suggest to review 1 year goals each 4 weeks. It gives me an opportunity to alter or update if something happens in your life. After specifying the goals for 1 year, we need to split our year into 4 12 weeks periods. Between each 12 weeks should be the period of 1 week for further planning and relax, and in other words, doing nothing. When you have this vision of 4 periods per 12 weeks for each year, it's necessary to set the list of goals for the first 12 weeks. At this stage, we don't set the goals for all 4 parts of a year. We just focus on the nearest period, remembering that 12 weeks is only the quarter of our year. That's why it's important to make these goals achievable and not so big. For 12 weeks period, it's very important to plan the goals based on a common scope of tasks, because that's the most common mistake in planning, either in a BA work or in a daily life. We plan a task and consider that achieve it within 12 weeks, but we don't consider about other tasks and impediments that can emerge. And this usually happens in some estimations when we say that we accomplish this task within 2 days, but then understand that we have other communicational tasks, retrospectives, plannings, and so on. The great rule for the estimation is that 8 hours work is not a 1 day work in your calendar. Usually it's 1.5 or even 2 days. Project managers, hello, I'm sure you agree with me. Or if not, please write down how many days takes 8 hours work on your project. And finally, of course, it's necessary to review 12 weeks plan on a weekly basis so as to track the progress. But before tracking the progress, you need to organize a weekly list of tasks for your 12 weeks. Firstly, you need to transfer the goals from your overall table. Then you need to prioritize them, because even if 80% of all your goals are achieved, it's a good result, for the beginning at least. After prioritizing the goals, you need to decompose them into smaller tasks. They should be small enough so as you can look at them and understand what you should do for that. Then it's necessary to set the weeks when you will be doing this task. You can add a range of weeks or multiple weeks if you need more time than a week for completing some activities. If you can't send the weeks, you can specify TBD, it's like to be discussed or to be determined, and back to that question when you will define the exact period. And finally, you need to leave a column for the result so as then to set the status for the actions. There are also some other hints for 12 weeks planning from my experience. I think that you don't need to take more tasks than you can handle. That's, of course, sounds obvious, but make 12 weeks plan flexible. Adjourn the plan each week and stick to the plan, but don't be afraid to change it. Remember that 80% of completed tasks is a good result. 100% of completed tasks sign off for analysis, because maybe the planning wasn't so ambitious or you spent too many efforts on reaching these goals. So, my inner silence tells me that we are almost on the finish line of our planning part, and the only 2 steps remain for this part. That's the step of setting the goals for the week. The list is transferred from our 12 weeks plan. Of course, it can have more tasks for each day than one, but we need to start with something at least. For that stage, it's useful to distribute tasks evenly across the week. Have at least one activity per week just for you. Usually, it relates to our hobbies. Set aside time for routine, tasks, and force measures. Always remember to review weekly plan every other day. And it's also useful to set a task for weekly review so as not to forget about this information. In my opinion, it's a very useful tip. The last but not least stage is my loveliest stage. It's the stage of daily planning. Disclaimer, it's not so useful to have a daily or weekly planning in XLS, but to represent the entire process, I'm using a consistent approach. The last step is a question. If I were to do 3 things today, which would have the biggest impact on my life goals? The answer usually is transferred from your weekly plan, but it doesn't always include some work. I write down the answer for this question, and it helps me to understand what is the most important for me today, and it helps me not to distract from my goal and mission for today. And it really make it my daily habit, and I make it as my routine, even on the weekends. But of course, tasks are different for these days. Here can be trainings, meeting with friends, meditations, hobbies, and dates with your girl or with your wife. I'm sure that sometimes, read as always, it can be more important than reading an extra chapter of requirements engineering or a book. Carl Wigger, sorry for that, but I am sure that specifically cozy dinner with your second half can give you more power and energy than one another motivational video of Tony Robbins or somebody else. By the answer of this question, our planning process is finished. Put pluses those who think that this flow can be useful. If you consider differently, leave your comment please. This simple structure of planning allows me to understand what should I do today so as to reach my goal in retrospect of 12 weeks, 3 years, 1 year and more. It allows me to say no to something that doesn't correlate with my principles and plans. It allows me to be more efficient because when I have a concrete task, I can easily start working on them and don't spend time on procrastination. And of course, it gives you self awareness and self confidence because when you know what to do, you have more energy and power. That's the end of the planning part. That were all the techniques that I use for my planning, but not all the instruments. That's why I made a separate part of my presentation for a Kanban board that is another useful tool for invading planning into my life. And this part of the presentation, I will show you how I use Kanban board for a short-term planning of 1 year, 12 weeks, months, week, and days. The logic is the same as in Excel sheet, but the way of the representation is a little bit different. And that's how my Kanban board for a year can look like. Here I have only 4 columns: to do, in progress, done, and not done. All tasks in to do section are prioritized and contain the labels with the spheres of life to which they relate. On Kanban board, I usually set the deadlines for the goals. That allows me to keep in shape towards achieving them and don't postpone for the future. About the labels, it's important to say that the more labels each goal has, the better it is. Because it means that if goal include multiple spheres, completing it will give you the growth in different spheres. Of course, it's important to make separate Kanban board for each year so as to see the history of all your achievements in retrospect of different years. The next board is for 12 weeks board. Here I have a little bit another structure than in Excel sheet. Columns include different spheres of life and cards are created for some specific goals. And I also create a separate column for the routine tasks. It allows me not to forget about them and take into account the time that I will have to spend on it. But for these tasks, I use labels not for the spheres, but for the statuses of the tasks. The statuses can be such as to plan, planned, in progress, done, not done, on hold, and etc. I guess we as IT specialists know a lot of information about different statuses, specifically on some Jira boards and so on. It's also important to set the deadlines for the tasks and prioritize them in the list. I usually review this board every Sunday during my weekly planning session. And of course, so as to make this board as efficient as it can be, I decompose my goals into checklists of each task. Usually, that's the same that was represented on the slide with the XLS table for 12 weeks. But here I also set the deadlines for the actions. These deadlines can be just the end of the week. That's just my hint. I also tried to add some descriptions and attach file to these cards. All these extra features and better visualization perspective make me doing planning in Kanban board instead of Excel sheet. And the best part is that when I complete the task, I can feel the checkbox. It gives me some power and motivation. Here, please put pluses those who also like filling checkboxes and minus those for whom it doesn't make any sense. While you are doing it, I want to tell more about Kanban board for months. And when I finish my 12 weeks Kanban board, I proceed with a monthly board. For each month, it has the same structure of the columns with the statuses to do, planned, in progress ball on my side, in progress ball on their side, today and done. All the cards in the columns are prioritized. To do is necessary for the tasks that you want to achieve but haven't already planned them. Plan status means that you decompose the task and know what to do and when with that. In progress columns are necessary for some actions that can be done within 1 day. It usually can be passing some courses, reading the book, and etc. For the ball on their side, like in progress ball on their side, I use in order to add the tasks where I am waiting for the actions for other people or organizations. For example, we can see that here I'm waiting for some details about visa and family trip. That's why these cards are in progress ball on their side. And of course, I have like done column for the actions that I've already done. Of course, here I have the labels of different spheres of life and use a simple rule. 90% completion of monthly tasks is a very, very good result for me. And so as to make the planning even more efficient for each 12 weeks or anytime, I have a card in monthly Kanban board with the plans for each week. I usually add each week as a separate checklist with the actions that I have to do within a week. I don't add some repetitive actions here such as running 1, running 2, running 3. I set it as one item to run at least 3 times. In this list, the tasks are also prioritized by the importance of their completion. And every time I complete the task, I fill this checkbox. You remember that I really love doing it. I usually review these sections once in 2 days so as not to forget about something or see the progress of the week. It also gives me some power. I usually create such checklist each Sunday, and I also add some routine tasks to this list, but with lower priority, of course. And this list gives me flexibility because I also can add something or change the priorities of different tasks. And the last point is that I do it on a daily basis. What I do on a daily basis. It, of course, writing down the answer for my loveliest planning question that I've already mentioned you beforehand. For each day, I add a comment with 3 actions, sometimes 2 or 4, but as a rule 3. I add the labels of 4 spheres of this card so as to see it everywhere, and I usually create it for 12 weeks. But now, to be frank, I don't even change it and have one task for even more than half of a year. Of course, I also prioritize the task in the comment with the answer. This slide is the last slide about Kanban Trello board and about this planning. I tried to show it as I usually use. I showed you only the facts and only the techniques that I've invaded into my life, used and practiced. The main reason why I use the combination of XLS and Kanban board is that XLS doc gives me the ability to see the picture in a long-term perspective from one page, and Kanban board gives me an ability to set more creative and flexible approaches for a short-term planning such as 1 year, 1 month, or 12 weeks. Of course, I also use some Google Calendar for the meetings, but I guess you know this application and also use it or use some other alternative solutions. And I'm sure that you, as business analysts, project managers, or anybody, know some techniques for prioritization of the tasks and actions. But anyway, I decided to show the techniques that I use for the prioritization at work or at home. And the next part of the presentation will be specifically about it. Me, the prioritization is important because in order to success in our professional career and in personal life, we need to say no for something that doesn't bring us any value and say yes to the opposite one. But it's easy to say, but not easy to define what's important for us and what's not. Specifically, when we are talking about tasks that come to us from other people or other managers. And in this presentation, I want to describe my main methods that I use for the prioritization of life tasks and the functionality of the product backlog and work tasks. The first is Eisenhower matrix. Put pluses those who knows this matrix. I think that that's one of the most obvious, but anyway, I want to describe it a little bit. This matrix consists of 4 main squares: important and urgent, important and not urgent, not important and urgent, not important and not urgent. Whew, it looks like tongue twister, and luckily I've made it. These tasks definitely need to described and need to be divided into these 4 spheres. And I want to start with important and urgent. Important and urgent includes the fires we need to put out. These are the tasks that you definitely need to do in the nearest future. For example, prepare a report for the manager, send a commercial offer to a client, pick up a child from your kindergarten. What to do? Check. If the task is really important, if not, then postpone, and if yes, then do it without any thoughts. My love list is important and not urgent. These are the things that can take you to another level. This is a task that greatly increase your life and can move you to another level. But at the same time, it's postponed because the result usually is not visible in a short-term perspective and it's not so urgent. For example, Get a good body or get training in management or business analysis, present your ideas for improving the process on the project and so on, can be not so urgent. What to do? I suggest to set aside your most productive time each day for these tasks when no one and nothing bothers you. Usually for me that's about 5:30, 6:30 a.m., but you can take any time you want. At least 1 hour take for this time. Probably it will rise you to completely different level. I assure you about this point, but please do it repetitively for some significant period of your life. The third is not important and urgent. These tasks can be done by other people. For example, fill out documents for a visa, cook breakfast, lunch, and advertisement for your new project. What to do? Delegate. Prepare breakfast, you can ask your girl or buy in cooking. Fill out documents for a visa, you can pay for the tour company or ask again your girl. No, I'm not a tyrann. If only your girl likes doing such organizational tasks, you can ask her. If not, do it by yourself or again, return to visa center. The fourth is not important and not urgent. These are the tasks we most often do when we can't say no or when our brain is trying to escape from the important things into something understandable and habitable. For example, viewing news and feeds on Instagram, constantly sorting our email, and etc. What to do with these actions? Stop doing them, or at least put them on your to-do list and return to them at your most unproductive times. For example, this is the evening for me when I can do some routine and unnecessary tasks like change the light bulb in my living room, for example. But to be frank, already two bulbs in my living room don't work, but I still haven't changed them. Maybe that's because I live alone and don't care about it so much, but hopefully I will do it maybe within 2 or 3 days, but that's not a 100% chance. This matrix is useful because when you understand in what square you should place each task, it becomes easier to say no to the tasks that are unnecessary for you and don't bring any value for you, for your project, for your career, for your managers, and so on. But please remember that some tasks cannot bring value for you, but bring value to people whom you love. And in my opinion, these tasks should be in the square of important and maybe urgent. A second prioritization method is one-to-one comparison. This tool I found out on a mastermind with my business coach. This was very useful and very simple tool. The only thing that you should do just to compare every task with each other. When you compared all the list, you can prioritize it from the most significant to the less one. I usually do it for the product backlog items because when you compare just two things, it's easy to define what's more important and what's less. The only pain point here is that it's a time consuming method. That's why I suggest to use it for not more than 12 items. In another way, it's better to use some other tools. And the last but not least is a method that helps you to prioritize backlog items, and I want to describe it in more details. The method is based on measuring the features by three main parameters: value, risk, and size. And then you use the formula that you can see on the slide. By calculating the value for each feature or user story, you can compare them and prioritize due to this value. Of course, it's not too easy to define the exact values and risk for each user stories. In this case, for the monetary value, I use some probable values from 1 to 100, and for the risk probable values from 1 to 10, where 1 is a low risk and 10 is a high risk. Of course, I will be frank with you, and I don't use it on each project, but I've already used it and it has some real benefits because this formula includes all aspects, but it doesn't include one, and in my opinion also very important. That's an emotional state of the team. Disclaimer: what I've been telling now is not a science or some concrete data. That's just my personal opinion. And when we create a product, you as a BA, as a business analyst, should also take into account the moral state of the team. And if you see that the designer was creating some user story for 2 days and client wants to change and postpone it, maybe it's better to persuade him to take it into the sprint. In that case, you will keep your designer in a trendy term now research state, and he or she will provide an amazing design for the future. Or vice versa, you can ignore some user stories that your client wants to implement if they won't really bring you any value. But always remember, we don't say or we don't tell no to our client. We tell what? We tell in the future, out of the MVP, and so on. And I guess we know that this future maybe will never happen because some other user stories will emerge in our product backlog. But of course, I will never tell this on some assessments or seller reviews. For seller reviews and assessments, of course, I will tell only about these official formulas, official figures, and so on. This tool I found out in a very useful book of Ron McGill and Ralph Yokman, the professional product owner. I think that that's one of the most useful books for middle and senior business analysts, even though we understand that that's not about business analysts, that's about product ownership. I think we know that business analyst is a stage on product ownership way and so on. So, cut a long story short, that were the ways that I use for the prioritization of the user stories and personal tests. If you have some other useful tools, please share them in the comments so as we can try and invade them. Because it's cool not just to get the knowledge, but also to share them with other people. But before we go to your questions, I would like to tell you about my life hacks and mistakes that I made when I invaded the planning into my life. And of course, I want to start with the most interesting mistakes. To be frank, I made plenty of them. The first mistake was that I scheduled the execution of a task without thinking about other activities. That caused some burnouts and uncompleted goals. The second was that I didn't take into account the time for the routine and lived in an ideal world where you need to do only what is important and not urgent. The third was a very deep decomposition. I spent too much time on planning instead of doing. And that was my life hack for procrastination, to be frank. The next mistake was that I added all the tasks into my calendar, even sleeping and dinners. It made my planning very strict and life very boring, to be frank. The most common mistake was when I tried to schedule the tasks for 10 hours of work and tried to complete them within 8 hours. Then it made me mad when I didn't complete them. Put pluses those who also had this trouble, by their fault or by the tasks that were given by their managers. Don't be afraid of your managers. I'm sure they are not here. Or even if they are doing something in parallel now, I guess. Our lovely managers, nothing personal, just a joke. And the last mistake was about multitasking. I'm ready to argue for the entire night, but better for a day and better for working day, about the fact that now we need to handle with a lot of tasks simultaneously. In my opinion, it's incorrect. And there are some numbers. From those who consider that person in a part-time of two projects, 4 and 4 hours for each day, works 8 hours. In reality, he works maybe 6 or even less. And these 6 are not a clear time. If you don't agree with me, please leave your comments. I assure that we will not argue with you about that for the entire night. But let's be more optimistic and more interested in life hacks, because I think mistakes are usually something that looks moody, and life hacks are also very, very tough for me because they all are about pain and gain in trying to acquire some new skills. My first life hack in planning is to start the day with the most complicated task. I assure you that it will not be easy to start the day like that, because we usually try to postpone this task for the later, but doing this task will give you a lot of power and energy for the entire day. The second is that I use different colors for the meeting in Google Calendar due to different spheres of life. It gives me the understanding towards what sphere of life this meeting is dedicated for. The next life hack is that when I have a big and complicated task, I start it with planning or doing some small part of it. In this case, I use my energy for the actions, not for the procrastination. Useful life hack is to schedule a little bit more time for each meeting. For 1 hour meeting, I schedule at least 1 hour and 10 minutes. It's also very important to add at least one hobby for each week, because it will allow you to have the time only for you, and it will allow you to distract from your routine and work. I suggest to use the combination of XLS tables and Kanban board for more flexible task management. And the last but not least, do no more than one task at a time. Okay, our bosses and colleagues and clients press on us, that's why too, but not more. And until you decided to start doing something in parallel, I would like to finish my speech with the main outcomes of this meetup. I would like just to name it as the list without any clarification, so as not to spend extra time and give an ability for you to think about your own outcomes. My outcomes of this meetup are: make your planning flexible. Ask the question about 3 actions for the day every day. Start the day with the most complicated task. Make mistake and analyze them. Don't humiliate yourself. Prioritize your tasks. Use the combination of Excel sheet, Kanban board, and calendar or whatever tool you know and use. Remember that you can't manage time. You can manage only tasks within some specific period. This understanding gave me a lot of power, and I stopped trying to manage the time. I just started to manage the tasks within some specific periods of time. So here were my presentation. Now it's time to you to ask or argue with me. Please leave the comments with your questions or disagreements. If you don't have any of them, you can write down what you remembered the most from this meetup. And while you're writing, I would like to remind you that after answering for these questions, we will have a practical part where we will make your own plan for 10-year goals in different time perspective. And what is also very important for me to highlight, that if you want to invade personal planning in your life, you should start within 72 hours from this presentation, because the stats says that if you don't commit any actions to your ideas within 72 hours, the chance to reach them are getting smaller and smaller. While I will be answering for your questions, you can look at my social networks, and I also added QR code on my Instagram where you can ask me some other questions. Of course, we will take some time for the answers, and after the practical part of this meetup, I will also try to answer for some extra questions that will emerge or won't emerge within just some specific periods of time. So thanks for this part. Hopefully you won't go away, and hopefully you haven't fall asleep. But let's see your questions, and I will try to answer for them. So I see that Pavel means the book name. Could some tell me? I try to tell the name of the book. That's The Professional Product Manager or Product Owner by Ron McGill or something like that. You can find it. So let's see another questions. Yeah, the professional product owner. Okay. What was your biggest planning mistake? The question is cool. I think that the biggest planning mistake was to think that when you have a plan, you manage your life and you can control everything. In my opinion, that's completely not so. And the issue was that I tried to follow the plan without an ability to change it, to make it flexible, and so on. I think that was my main mistake. Except, of course, the mistake estimates some tasks only within just without thinking about some other activities, without other tasks. Okay, another question is how to deliver to product owner that his requirements do not have a value. The first, and I guess my main outcome, how to make person understand that his idea is not relevant, is not telling him, is just to ask him some questions that can smoothly bring him to the understanding or that his idea is not relevant. I mean, like if, for instance, your client tells that this feature will give me a lot of money, it will take a lot of clients, you can of course answer like, no, it won't give you any money and any clients. And of course you will get just some arguments and so on. But if you start asking the questions like, why do you think that it will give you some clients, what features and why did you make some research? What were your assumptions? What if our clients are the audience of this age, and your activity and your suggestion is for people who are younger or elder? And after that, the person, of course, can just by answering for these questions, the person understand that maybe it's not the most appropriate one. So, cut long story short, ask the questions that will provide the person an ability to understand that these answers are not really correct, and the functionality is not so cool. Okay, the next question is, what is your plan achievement success rate so far? What is your plan achievement success rate so far? To be frank, I'm not sure that I understand clearly this question. Maybe it's about like what achievement, what the most significant achievement gave me the planning. Maybe this question I have. So I became a senior business analyst, resource manager. Um, uh, Established my own online course of business analysis because only thanks to the planning, thanks to decomposing the task and setting the deadlines, setting the understandable structure, it gave me an ability to understand that's okay. Now I know what to do, because without it, like, okay, make an online course. That's a very complicated task, but I just understand that these big tasks we can't make and we can't accomplish, and we need to decompose it into smaller tasks. So hopefully I've answered you for the question. How do you manage unrealistic expectations from client? Tell him that I'm not a superstar. So maybe you are thinking unrealistic expectation. We can divide it into two parts, like two categories: unrealistic expectations from you, like as a business analyst, and from the project. So from you can of course highlight your main spheres and your responsibilities and tell that, of course, you can expect from me somebody who will take a star from the sky and give to you, but I'm the only person who will be 100% dedicated to your project and will try to make as much as possible. And of course, we always need to talk to our clients with the money perspective. Because when we say that it's complicated, it's not so useful, it's not relevant for business people. For business people, it's more relevant about money, how much they should spend and how much they will give, and they will get from this. And if you show this simple understanding and simple correlation, you of course easily give your client an opportunity to understand that maybe it's not so relevant. So as not to prolong a lot with the questions, I would like to answer for another question. Then we will make some practical part, and after that, I will hopefully answer for the questions that remained. So, okay, could you share advice? Okay, I like this question because it's all about habit. Could you share advice how to develop a habit of planning in your life? That's easy. First of all, you need to start with this habit within 72 hours. Thursday usually is the best day from starting. I don't know why, but some people, some astrologists say so. And another is set the checkboxes for yourself, like do it 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and just fill this checkbox, because you remember that I really love these checkboxes and filling them. And of course, after that, you will be capable just to see the progress. And while you see this progress each day, you start invading them. But beforehand, of course, it's necessary to understand why do you need it. Maybe you're the person who doesn't need this planning. But I don't know such people, to be frank. And now, let's stop talking and let's start working. Okay, sounds like a cool phrase. So, what we will have? We will have our own goal. This goal looks like sell my services as an expert in business analysis. That is my main goal. The next is the list of goals that I've already made for 10 years. These goals are become an independent expert in business analysis and earn at least $10,000 per month. That's our as this state. Whom we imagine? We imagine a junior business analyst who have already know something about, I don't know, business analysis, who has already was taken into the company and who needs to make the plan. And from you, I will be asking to write down what probable goals you think are relevant for 5 year, 3 year, and 1 years. And of course, we will start with 5 year goals. So I would like to ask you to write down in this chat what goals do you think are relevant for these 5 year goals from the goals that we have for 10 years. And of course, we will do it one by one from 5 to 3 to 1 year. Then we make the list of 12 weeks goals. Then we set the weekly plan and daily plan. And we will understand how to trace our big goal, like sell my service as an expert in business analysis. That sounds incredibly, I think, for now. For something specific, easy for today. But let's don't rush and start with, as you can see now here on my slide, with the goal. 10-year goals we have, like again, goal is sell my services as an expert and become an independent expert in business analysis. We also have, okay, that's cool. And now, what do you think? What goals will be cool for, I think, okay, I will add this link for me. So as to your comments, mostly see your comments. Yep. And what options do you think are preferable for 5 years? Become a senior BA. Cool. Yeah, maybe so. Become a senior BA. Maybe, to be frank, so first of all, disclaimer, to buy a house. Cool, but I'm not sure that buy a house will be cool for becoming an expert in business analysis, but also finishing multiple trainings, UML, BPMN, and others. Agree with you, but I think that this cool thing will be for some shorter period of time, because becoming a senior BA, that sounds reasonable. Okay, immigrate to United States. If you wish, you can do whatever you wish. You are responsible for your life, but let's be more realistic and more, optimistic about our current position. And I see like work in a lot of different projects, be proficient in 3-4 domains. Okay, I agree with you, but we remember that for now it's cool to set the list of tasks, like work in a lot. We remember that it's not so specific, because for you a lot is like, okay, 5 minutes, 5 projects, for me 10, and so on. Let's set, I don't know, 5 years, okay, in 5 projects. Then the next is be proficient in 3-4 domains. Also cool idea. I would suggest to name it so, like work in 3 domains at least. 4, okay, for our like 5-year goals. Develop the relevant knowledge in 5 business domains. Okay, I think that 3 will be enough, but we basically understand. Receive international certification. Be recognizable on the market. Okay, what I see, we have different goals and we understand them. And that's cool. For 5-year perspective, that's cool. I think that for 5 years, we may set like receive, I don't know, let's name it, okay, senior business analyst is almost, okay, not almost a product owner, but launch my personal BA course. Yeah, cool. But yeah, receive international certifications. Okay, international certifications. Let's name it like at least 3, so as to add some figures, numbers, and so on. Effectively prioritize launch my personal BA courses. Okay, let's set the last for 5 years, like launch BA courses. That's cool. For 5 years, I think that's enough. Now we have 5-year goals. What do we need to do? We need to set some goals for 3 years, so as to understand what should we do in retrospect of the nearest futures. And what will be cool from you to see, what do you think? What like other goals can we set for them? Small hint, some prompt, we can start with become a senior BA because it's easy to trace to some lower levels if you wish, and try to make some 3-year goals. Yeah, bingo! Become a middle BA. Become a middle BA. We understand that, okay, in 5 years, we forgot about something. I don't know what about you, maybe you've already, but I earn at least $5,000. Sounds cool, I think. To be frank, I don't care a lot about currently about some mistakes and so on, because for me the main idea is to transfer the knowledge, experience, and how to decompose them. Okay, work in 3 projects. I like this idea. Okay, I think we have some correlation between the number of years and the number of projects. So 5K, yeah. Looks like, okay, Blumen, looks like you don't believe in it or some sort of that. Currently, we just plan. And I think that, okay, in 5 years, maybe, okay, if we can't listen to the hint of the person about moving to USA, I guess it's easier to get 5K in a month. I mean, in the USA, of course. Okay, become a middle business analyst. Work in 3 projects. So we imagine a person with an experience of business of a middle business analyst working in 3 projects. Oh, yes, sorry. Thank you for that. Yeah, of course, no 5,000 thousands. Of course, that's my mistake. Just 5,000, because 5,000 thousands looks over ambitious. I guess. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Daniel. So, what else we have here? Okay, we have work in 3 domains. Like we maybe want to work like in 2 domains. Become BA mentor for the company's newcomers. Cool. I think that in perspective of 3 years, if we really work hard, we can become even mentors in 3 years. It's not so, I think, strict. So become a mentor, okay, a mentor for the company. Choose not to make very precise text. I would like to not to add this text like for newcomers and so on. Sorry for that, but okay. What else? We have earned at least $5,000. Let's set another plan. Let earn at least, okay, $2.50. For me, $2.50 looks more realistic within 3 years than 10,000 within 10 years. But what do you think? What do you understand on the domain? Like some direction, like fintech, for instance, educational, healthcare, some sort of that. So I mean these. So as to make our terms the same and relevant, I think that it's cool that you ask this question of understanding the domain, like direction, some specific direction. Conduct at least 2 external meetups. Cool. I think that conduct at least 2. Okay. Conduct at least 2 external meetups. Okay, I think that's enough for 3 years. Let's be more realistic. What about the perspective of middle and senior business analysts we can set for 1 year? Cool, can manage more plus minus 5 junior BAs, that's cool. Mentoring junior BAs, that's cool. But I would like just to proceed with, okay, with the step of 1 year. What do you think we can use? While you're writing, I will make some hint. I think that even within a year, we can participate in at least 1 internal meetup. Why not? Because as I told you on some interviews, I have never watched the meetup, but in my opinion, it would be very cool to see the meetup of a junior business analyst. How it's complicated for him to survive among all these sharks of senior business analysis management, of middle business analysis management, product owners, and so on. For me, it 100% will be useful. Become a junior plus BA. Cool. I agree that maybe in retrospect of 1 year, it's not always so easy to become a middle, even though you have some different projects, but become a junior plus BA looks cool. Of course, for now, it's not so understandable what means junior plus and what's the difference between junior plus, and middle, but we will try to define. UML training, etc. Some essential certificates. Cool. I know such certificate as IQBBA that I also got and get an IQBBA certificate. It will be cool in 1 year. Earn. Okay, the question to you. What amount do you want to set for earning for 1 year for junior in 1 year, of course, as his salary, as his paycheck? Of course, remember that can be not only like some salaries. That can be just some alternative ways of investments and so on. We don't think about just 1 hour work. Okay, earn at least. Okay, here I have a mistake, but hopefully you haven't noticed, or even if you noticed, you won't be so moody to tell me about it. But so as not to irritate perfectionists such as me, I will add something like earn at least 2,000 and a half. Okay, we have work in 2 domains, earn positive feedback from RM. Cool. But I think for 1 year, it's not, very ambitious to get only 1. I think like, okay, get at least 3 positive feedbacks. I think not from RM, from managers, because why I don't want to set like from RM, because it limits you only from the feedbacks of your resource manager. But what if you get feedback from your manager? That's why sometimes it's cool to make them precise, but give some freedom of flexibility. Earn positive feedback. For me, it's better anyway to use the word get, not earn, because it sounds a little bit strange. But the idea is cool, and thank you for that. Successfully implement middle level technique on your project. Other team member asks her advice. Read 5 books on BA. What I want to say about read 5 books on BA, that's cool to set such logic, because it looks like, okay, it's traceable, it's easy to achieve, it's understandable. But to be frank, we read the books not so as just to read them. And that's not the goal. Specifically, when we're talking about some business analysis professional career, we read them for achieving something. And I think that maybe we have something like, okay, pass an internal assessment in theory for junior, okay, junior plus BA. It means that we won't have just a goal to read the books, but we will find the way how to pass this internal assessment. That doesn't mean that we will have a complete assessment for a middle business analyst, but we will have just these different ways, and we will have a strict structure. What should we achieve? Okay, sorry for that. I can't look at how incorrect positive is positove is not, I guess, the right one. Yeah, and the cool is participate in at least 1 pre-sale. Also cool, participate in at least 1 pre-sale. So let's go to the more precise one. 12 weeks goals, just 3 months, a little bit less. What from these 1 year goals we can set for our 12 weeks? Remember, don't be super ambitious and don't be too slow. Let's name it so. Successful probation period. Cool. Agree, like successfully pass a probation period. That's cool. That's for even our junior BA position. Apply theoretical knowledge from X course on the project and 1 project. Within 12 weeks, I'm not sure that that's a cool idea, even discovery phase. But what can we do? Okay, so, yeah, for 12 weeks, but I think not just the middle, but we can set a plan to become a junior plus BA. When we understand what we need to get, we understand what should we do, and so on. What else can we do for our 1 year goals? Remember, we are almost on the finish line. We just on 12 weeks, so the only thing that remains are just 12 weeks plannings, then just some weekly plan, daily plan, and that's it. Participate in meetups and trainings. I would suggest so. We have participate in at least one pre-sale. Let's imagine that in our company, because in our we of course have, in our I mean Andersen of course, we have some internal courses for pre-sales so as to get the knowledge, and I think that pass an internal examination of pre-sales will be a cool idea for our newcomer. Create a list of courses to finish before the assessment. Participate in meetups and trainings. Participate. I'm not sure that for a guy who already come to work, he's ready to participate in meetup, specifically junior within 12 weeks. But set the idea and structure of the potential meetup, I think will be cool. Remember, we have 12 weeks, but that doesn't mean that we will focus only on this goal. That's just 1 hour goal. We will have some goal of, I don't know, family and relationships, running, like sport and so on. And that's why we need to be like more careful with the task, because don't be to be proactive. I agree that that's cool, and that's, I guess, the style of life to be proactive, but the option is that it's not so easy, to trace. And how to be proactive from technical perspective? Let's think about it from our goals. Pass an internal assessment in series of junior be proactive. I think that a proactive person, specifically a junior, is a person who tries to get some ideas, to take some ideas in and work. And I think that, like, okay, let's name the goal like start working on a commercial project. I think, okay, to be able to solve tasks without micromanagement, take extra activities, write article for Telegram channel. Cool. And that's about, I think that proactive person is a person who would suggest to write an article, for, okay, for Telegram. Okay, let's name, okay, let it will be Telegram channel of the company. Remember that I think that will be a cool article, like me as a junior BA trying to survive in the world of sharks of senior BAs. I think that will be a cool article. I'm not a junior, and unfortunately, I didn't have such idea when I was a junior. My main idea was just to survive. But now I think it would be cool to read about it and to remind how person handled that. Okay. Successfully implemented features from the requirements created by this junior BA. That's also cool. I think that we need to proceed to some extra steps, to extra things. I don't think that we need to like go to all the goals, because it will take a lot of time. I would like you to like decompose one goal. And what goal can we set? I think, okay, let's start with set a plan to become a junior BA. That's our goal. And if everything will be with time, we will have another. Let's name like, okay, start working on a commercial project, pass an internal examination. I think that pass an internal examination will be cool, so as to understand how can we decompose the simple actions into smaller one. So we have a plan. No, we have a task to set the plan to become a junior plus BA. What actions do you think we need to do within like our 12 weeks for this? Yeah, create a structure of the plan. That's cool. Create the structure of the plan. What else? Some tips and hints. Imagine that we have some like theoretical base for pre-sales, some knowledge base. Of course we have, like, and maybe it's cool to do something with that, with this knowledge base. And what do you think? What task can we set with this knowledge base? What do you think? Restructure the plan activities. Okay, we can set like, okay, share gained knowledge with other employees, have more practice in real projects. Okay, that's cool, but first, like, set a plan to become a junior BA. Yes, uh, share gained knowledge with other employees. Cool. Have no more practice in real project. Have more practice in real project. I think that what about like describe at least, I don't know, 5 features on any project. Key B. There is a cool phrase like read key B, but I don't know what does mean key B, because that's not Carl Wiggers. That's not Babok. Uh, yeah, read knowledge base, maybe like, okay, yeah, read knowledge base. Thank you. Read knowledge base for 1 day. That's cool. Like, define, like, investigate the knowledge base. And KB, I write some user stories or test scenarios. Okay, let's make like, write at least, I don't know, 10 user stories, on the project. Okay, what else? Describe at least 5 features on any project by different methods. Okay, let's create at least 3 diagrams, and maybe set a plan to become. Create the structure of the plan. That's okay. Create the structure, and I think set the list of actions to reach the plan. Why I add such point? Because create the structure, we have, okay, the plan, but in this point, like, set the list of actions to reach the plan, it means that we have a plan and then we set the specific missions, like create the structure of the plan. Like, create, we need to know, like, okay, 1 2 3 ABC, we need to know, and that's our plan, that's our structure. But if we set a plan, set the list of actions, we set specific actions that we need to commit. View internal meetups of more skillful BAs. Why not? Let's name it like, okay, view at least 3 meetups. Okay, cool. So we have some specific plan. Of course, I want to highlight that it doesn't mean that it will always be so. And of course, when you plan by yourself, you make it more precise and more specific. But my idea for now is just to show and try with you in some rough ways to, like, highlight and show how we can manage and handle with that. Okay, and let's I think, okay, we have created the structure of the plan and so on. I think that we can move to the next part. We need to set a weekly plan. We have the structure of the plan. We have the plan. What do you think we can do within a week for this action, for our, like, setting a plan to become a junior BA? First is just for me, run at least 3 times. That's just for me. It doesn't relate to my professional career, but I want to describe. So what can we do in our weekly plan? What about learning tools in professional manners? Of course, we forgot about them, but hopefully now we won't do so, and we will be capable to remember about it. And learning tools in professional manners, of course, is useful. I think that the first cool idea will be to, like, if we have created the structure, we need to investigate knowledge requirements for junior plus BA. I think that it will be cool for the first week. What else can we do within a week? Have also here, remember that some diagrams and so on. We have some user stories, meetups and so on. What else can we do within the first week of our planning part? What do you think? Okay, if there are no ideas, I would like to introduce some my ideas. Find meetup to visit. Cool. Yes. Find. I would make even more, optimistic. Register, because find we can find, but register for at least one meetup. Then choose tools. Find meetup to visit. We have choose tools. Select. Okay, choose. I would make so. Create at least one BPMN diagram. Create at least 2 user stories. What else? Describe at least features, write at least 1 user story, create at least 3 diagrams, create at least 2 user stories, choose tools at least. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Maybe again I made some mistake. Not at least. At least. Hopefully, of course, I check everything before sending it to our clients. That's why they don't see my mistakes. There are also some useful tools for like checking your grammar and so on. Okay, let's stuff a little bit more about different goals for a week. Okay, what do we have here? Set the idea, structure of the potential meetup, start a working commercial project. What if within the first week we create a topic for Telegram channel article? Let's be optimistic and so on. Okay, we have run at least 3 times. Cozy dinner with wife. I don't have her, but at least we can edit. So we have our weekly plan. In the last part of is what do we need to set for our day, for today? Remember that we have this question like, if I were to do 3 things today, which would have the biggest impact on my life goals? Remember that I would like you to write down only one your idea for this day about professional part, and then you can uh, add some extra features, extra parts for weekly plan that we have in our pink rectangle. What do you think? What actions can we do within today, like tomorrow, maybe not today? Okay, maybe for these posts that's cool to have some jokes and so on, but unfortunately I haven't prepared them for such cases and will be just waiting for your answers. And even if we don't get anything, I will register or investigate. Okay, investigate. Thank you for this. I think that register is cool, but I'm not sure that it's very easy to register within one day, because maybe it's time to think and rethink and think about money and so on. But investigate. Okay, let's make some ads. Andersen meetups schedule. Let's imagine that only Andersen has meetups, but of course it's not so. Investigate Andersen meetups. And maybe, okay, and is not so cool for, I think, business analysts, because we need to make it specific. Okay, investigate Andersen meetup schedule on website. Why add on website? If we add where we can achieve it, how and so on, we can easily understand easily how to find where can we make this action. Because if we investigate Andersen meetup schedule and we don't add on website, we can find it wherever we want. From one perspective, that's cool, but from another, we want to understand where can we find it. And that's why it's cool sometimes for our goals to set some specific concrete ways how we can solve it. This goal will be for one day: investigate the middle. I would like a junior plus, if we have so, plus the metrics. And the third, give me please this opportunity, run. Okay, 5k run. Run, run a 5k run. Not a cool way, but sounds like a tongue twister, to be frank. But anyway, so finally, I congratulate you. We finished with our planning. Of course, that was just a structure, so as for you to understand. But now we have this understanding for today. Like, what should we do within today? Like, why do we need to investigate junior BA metrics? Why do we need to investigate Andersen meetup schedule on website? Because we want to be here. Finally, we want to sell our services as an experts in business analysis. And understanding this whole structure, this whole plan of 1 day, week, 12 weeks, 1 year, 3 goals, 5 years, 10 years, allows you to understand how cool it is, and how useful it is, and why do you need to make this step, and what for you need to make this step, and so on. This structure helped me. Hopefully it will help you. If you have some other desires, if you have some other thoughts, you can take it, and that's it. That was my last part of the presentation. Hopefully I will answer for the questions that still remain. The last thing that I want to tell, that I never plan my final words about the meetups, and today again I want to say, like, from my heart, about planning. Try to plan your time periods, try to plan your day, but always leave the gaps for you, for people around you, for some new opportunities that may emerge in your life. Don't be too strict with planning, because in my opinion it will give you less freedom and less energy from life. Hopefully you will invade it, or you will try to use some other tools for them. For those who've already remain here, I would like to answer for some other questions. Like, the question is common: what is the greatest and difficult part in difficult part in BA job? I think that's a lot of complicated tasks. I think the most complicated that I want to tell now, as an extrovert with always having something to say, to befriend your customer and desires of your customer with the desires of your team. Because we need to understand that the desires of your client, of your customer, or of your manager, and the desires of your team are completely different. Team usually doesn't care about money of the client. Client cares more about money. And to define this best solution, how to use this money as effective as they can be with the help of you and your team, and make a good project. And I think that's one of the most complicated. And the most complicated for me in BA job is to understand that the success of your job is not a good documentation. That's a good project, and not even product. And understanding that gives you, this freedom of understanding that, okay, maybe it's not time to make the best user stories and write down them as you can. Make enough user stories so as to make a better product. Can you recommend more books? I will just highlight that it's cool to ask at least the spheres of the life that you want to like improve. But if we're talking about business analysis, of course, first of all, it's about user story mapping. Unfortunately, I don't remember the names of the books, but you can write down me in social networks. Hello again, some marketing, my personal marketing. You can write me down via LinkedIn or via Instagram and ask the questions there, because currently I'm not very good in books. I've read a lot of them, but like that was about user stories. Now, of course, I suggest to write Carl Wiggers, not Babok. Firstly, Babok I would suggest to read only when you become a middle senior BA. Then Professional Product Owner, I think that's a cool book, really cool book to understand all the spheres of the process. Then another book useful for, I think, business analysts, except all these, all about Scrum management, Scrum planning. There is a book like Scrum versus Kanban, or some sort of that. That's also a cool book about Kanban. Try to read like some sort of that, and okay, follow my course and follow the links there also, because I have the concrete list of the links that will be useful, I think, for you in business analysis. But I don't try to sell my course to those who don't need it. I think that's it. Other books, again, if you really need, please write me down, and I assure you, but better maybe on Instagram, but maybe LinkedIn also, to write me down like what books do you need, and I will send you the answer. It's necessary to improve my planning skills in order to switch from the BA to PO position. Is it necessary to improve my planning skills in order to switch from the BA to the PO position? I don't know your skills, that's why I can't answer. But of course, for product owner, it's necessary to manage tasks more, because in my opinion, product owner has even more tasks and more items to handle. That's why he, of course, needs to know how to manage them. So that were all the questions that I see here. I would like to appreciate you for all your time, because as one thought was, we as speakers, we don't compete with other speakers. We like meetup representatives. We compete with Netflix. We compete with some, I don't know, video games and so on. I really appreciate you that today you decided to spend some time on like increasing your knowledge. Sorry for that. Have maybe some more emotions for you for these appreciations. And you decided to make this choice to spend some time on self-education. In my opinion, that's a good choice. If you don't compare it with cozy dinner, of course, as you remember. I wish you good luck. I would like to tell you thank you for this work. See you on my social networks or wherever you will be. Thank you for that. Bye.